If NVIDIA is a Formula One car leading the pack, then the crowd is desperately fighting to bet on the driver. But there is another group of investors. They don't care who's behind the wheel. They are quietly buying up the companies that manufacture the one single bolt that, if missing, would cause the entire engine to explode. Welcome to the world of monopoly choke points, where the real profits of AI are hiding. Most people think they've missed the boat. They look at NVIDIA's chart or Palantir's run and think, it's over, I'm too late. But you've been looking at the wrong map. You've been staring at the shiny logo on the front of the building, while the elite are looking at the utility lines running underneath it. Think about this. In the California gold rush, the people who got the richest weren't the miners, it was the guys selling the shovels. But in 2026, the game has changed. Today, the real money isn't in the shovel, it's in the company that owns the only patent for the high-grade steel required to make that shovel. I call these invisible giants. These are the companies no one talks about on the news, but without them, the digital world stops spinning. In this video, I'm going to show you the choke point formula to find these hidden monopolies before the rest of the market wakes up. We are going deep into the semiconductor wrench makers and why even the biggest names in tech have to bow down to them. Stick around, because once you see this invisible infrastructure, you'll never look at a stock chart the same way again. To understand why these giants are invisible, we need to peel back the AI technology onion, from the glitziest outer layer right down to the core. Think about the hierarchy of the AI world. At the top, you have the stars. Everyone knows NVIDIA. They design the brains, but NVIDIA doesn't actually make the chips. For that, they have to go to TSMC in Taiwan, the world's most advanced foundry. But wait, how does TSMC build those chips? They need the world's most complex machine, the EUV lithography system, and there is only one company on the entire planet that can build it, ASML. Now, most investors stop there. They think ASML is the end of the line. But here is the choke point secret. ASML is a system integrator. That massive machine, the size of a bus and costing $350 million, contains over 100,000 specialized components. And if just one of those high-precision subsystems fails to perform, the $350 million machine becomes a very expensive paperweight. This is where we meet the shovel of the shovel. Take a company like MKS Instruments. You've probably never seen their logo on a consumer product. You won't find them sponsoring a stadium, but they are the masters of the invisible layer. They create the vacuum solutions, the power delivery systems, and the gas flow controllers that go inside the ASML machines. Imagine you're trying to bake a cake, but the temperature has to be exactly 350.00001 degrees, not 350, not 350.1. If it deviates by a fraction, the whole thing is ruined. That is what semiconductor manufacturing is like, but at a molecular level. MKS Instruments provides the wrenches and the gauges that make that precision possible. This is what I call a choke point. Why is this a better investment than just chasing the latest AI software app? It comes down to one word: moat. A software company can be disrupted by 3 guys in a garage with a better algorithm in 6 months, but you cannot disrupt a company that owns 200 patents on how to control the flow of exotic gases in a vacuum chamber at near light speeds. You can't code your way around a physical salt mine or a proprietary laser calibration system that took 40 years of R&D to perfect. These companies have what Wall Street calls high switching costs. If TSMC or ASML wanted to replace a supplier like MKS, it would take years of re-engineering and billions in costs. So they don't. They just keep paying. This creates a business model with incredible margins and sustained profitability. While the companies at the front of the race, the NVIDIAs and the Apples, have to fight for market share and deal with massive public expectations, the invisible giants sit quietly in the back, collecting a tax on every single chip produced globally. They don't care if the world uses ChatGPT, Gemini, or a new AI we haven't heard of yet. They just care that more chips are being made. When you own the choke point, you don't have to predict the winner of the race, you just have to own the finish line.
But how do these companies actually perform when the market gets rocky?
And what are the specific names you need to watch right now? To answer that, we have to look at how these boring businesses turn wrenches into massive wealth. Let's dive into 3 specific examples that are currently sitting at what I believe is the perfect entry moment, and one of them isn't even in the tech sector. You might think these are just spare parts or secondary components. That is a massive mistake. Think about this. Imagine TSMC spends $40 billion building a state-of-the-art fabrication plant in Arizona. The building is ready, the engineers are on site, but they are missing one specific pressure control valve from a company you've never heard of. The result? The entire multi-billion-dollar operation sits completely paralyzed. In the world of high tech, the smallest link is often the strongest. Let's look at our first invisible giant, MKSI, Instruments. To print the world's most advanced AI chips, you need a vacuum. Not just a clean room, but a perfect, absolute void where even a single stray molecule of oxygen could ruin a $1 million silicon wafer. ASML's machines depend on MKS to create and control this environment. Their gas flow controllers and vacuum power systems are so precise they operate at a level of physics that feels like science fiction. If MKS stopped shipping tomorrow, the global production of advanced semiconductors wouldn't just slow, it would stop, period. And because their tech is baked into the very blueprints of the machines ASML and Applied Materials build, they have a lock-in effect that software companies can only dream of. Now, let's pivot to the second choke point, security. Everyone is talking about AI software, but no one is talking about how you protect the data centers running it. Enter Fortinet. Here is the twist. Most cybersecurity is just software. It's slow, it creates a bottleneck. But Fortinet did something different. They designed their own custom chips, ASICs, specifically for security. While other companies are trying to scan data using general-purpose processors, Fortinet's hardware, firewall on a chip, does it 1,000 times faster. In the AI era, where data moves at light speed, software-only security is like putting a wooden gate in front of a supersonic jet. Fortinet owns the physical gate of the network. As AI-driven cyber attacks become more sophisticated, these hardware-accelerated choke points aren't just an advantage, they are a survival requirement for every Fortune 500 company. But there is a third choke point, one that is even more primitive, and yet arguably more critical as we head into 2026. It's liquid cooling. AI chips like the NVIDIA H100s and the newer Blackwell series run incredibly hot. We're reaching the physical limits of what air and fans can do. If you can't cool the chip throttles. If the chip throttles, your billion-dollar AI model takes twice as long to train. This has turned companies like Vertiv or specialized liquid cooling providers into the ultimate gatekeepers. They provide the circulatory system for the AI brain. Without the plumbing, the brain fries. Do you see the pattern here? Whether it's MKS controlling the vacuum, Fortinet controlling the gate, or cooling companies controlling the temperature, these are the invisible giants. They don't need to win the AI popularity contest. They just need the industry to keep growing. But here's the question. How do you know when to buy these stocks? Because even a great company can be a terrible investment if you buy it at the peak of a hype cycle. In the next section, I'm going to show you the rotation framework. This is the exact set of rules Wall Street uses to spot when these giants are being ignored by the crowd, and more importantly, the specific signals that tell you it's time to move your capital out of the hype and into the infrastructure. Because as my friend Felix says, buy and hold is dead. You don't want to marry these stocks, you want to ride the wave of their industrial dominance. Let's look at the screener settings you need to find the next one. Now, you might be tempted to just buy these 3 stocks and forget about them for the next decade, but I have to warn you, that is the most dangerous mistake a retail investor can make in 2026. As we discussed earlier, the buy and hold mantra is effectively dead for individual stocks. Why? Because technology is moving too fast. Today's choke point can become tomorrow's relic. If you marry a stock, you blind yourself to the moment the divorce papers are served by the market. To survive, you need to stop being a fan of a company and start being a manager of your capital.
That means using the rotation framework. Wall Street doesn't hope, they rotate. When a sector like consumer AI software gets too crowded and expensive, the smart money rotates into the infrastructure, the invisible giants. And when those giants get overvalued, they move again. So how do you find the next MKS Instruments or the next Fortinet before they become a YouTube stock? You need a specific mental screener. Here is the 3-point checklist I use to find choke point monopolies. First, the 40% margin rule. If a company is selling a commodity, their margins are thin because anyone can compete on price. But if a company has gross margins consistently above 40%, it tells you they have pricing power. It means they are selling something the world must have, and they are the only ones who can provide it. Second, the 60% niche dominance. I look for companies that own at least 60% of their specific boring market. I don't want the company making the whole computer. I want the company making the specific laser sensor used to calibrate the machine that builds the computer. If they own the niche, they own the gate. Third, the clean balance sheet. In a world of fluctuating interest rates, debt is a killer. These invisible giants often sit on piles of cash because their business is so efficient. Look for low debt-to-equity ratios. This ensures that when a market crash happens, they aren't just surviving, they're buying up their smaller competitors. But I have to be honest with you, there are risks. The semiconductor industry is cyclical. It goes through boom and bust cycles. If you buy at the peak of a factory building craze, you might have to wait years for the next wave. And then there's disruptive innovation. Remember MKS Instruments and their vacuum systems? What happens if a new way of printing chips, like nano-imprint lithography, removes the need for a vacuum entirely? Suddenly, that choke point vanishes. This is exactly why you cannot just buy and hold. You must stay alert. You must watch for the shifts in the physical world, not just the digital one. My goal today isn't just to give you 3 ticker symbols. It's to give you a new set of eyes. When you look at a new technology, whether it's humanoid robots, space travel, or biotech, don't ask who is the most famous company in this space. Instead, ask, what is the one thing this whole industry needs that only 1 or 2 companies can make and that is too difficult for a startup to copy? When you find that, you found an invisible giant. But we're not done yet. Knowing what to buy is only half the battle. Knowing when to exit and how to protect the gains you've made is what separates the pros from the victims. Let's wrap this up with a plan of action you can use starting tomorrow morning and a final warning about the trap most investors are walking into right now. So here's the bottom line. Investing in the AI revolution is about so much more than just clicking buy on Nvidia and hoping for the best. Real sustainable wealth isn't built by chasing headlines or following the herd into overvalued trades. It's built by understanding the value chain, identifying the invisible giants that the world literally cannot function without. When you own the choke points, you aren't just betting on a trend, you are becoming the landlord of the entire digital infrastructure. We've looked at the precision of MKS Instruments, the hardware-level security of Fortinet, and the critical cooling systems keeping the AI brain alive. These aren't just stocks, they are the physical gatekeepers of our future. The question is, are you going to keep looking at the shiny logos, or are you going to start looking at the blueprints? I want to hear from you.
Out of these three sectors, precision measurement, hardware security, and data center cooling, which choke point do you believe is the most critical for the next 5 years? Drop the ticker symbols you're watching in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next analysis.